Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 23 Driver Career Mode. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we are headed to Italy, Monza, of course for the Italian Grand Prix, home of Ferrari and, well, home for AlphaTauri as well. So we're hoping to not disappoint for the home team and home crowd here. Now we come in 10th in the standings, fresh off of another Max Verstappen win, two back-to-back wins and two, you could call home Grand Prix for him, two of them with Belgium and the Netherlands here as we just touched down in the Monza area. Beautiful area here surrounding this circuit now as we were ready to roll on this Friday afternoon. Very exciting times ahead here in Monza, a track where straight line speed is quite important obviously here. That kind of makes up the whole lap here is straight lines. So fortunately, although our car might not be great in the R&D, it is actually we do have a really good power unit, so I was hopeful that we could actually be relatively competitive this weekend here in Monza now as we kick off some free practice one doing the race strategy program, and I was pretty happy with how the car was driving. I was a bit surprised by how much I had to back up my braking zone into turn one here. So previously in Monza in F1 like 22, I could brake in between about the 150 to the 100. In this game for me today, I had to brake right at the 150 marker. So if I push it a little bit further than that, the odds of me making the turn one apex were pretty low. We end up free practice one here behind our teammate Tsunoda, who's in P10. We end up P17 here. Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, and Hulkenberg all behind us as we would jump straight through into this Saturday afternoon for qualifying. This video should be going out Saturday in real life, the day before the Silverstone British Grand Prix, and after qualifying on the Saturday. Let me know who you guys think is going to win that Grand Prix. I'm just going to go for the obvious of Max Verstappen. We'll see what happens. I still really want to see Fernando Alonso get to the top step of the podium this season, not only in real life, but in the game as well. We have yet to see him get there. Will it actually happen? We'll have to wait and see. Now, as you can see, a mistake right there in Q1. That really slowed my lap down, so I would cross the line, go slowest at the time being, but I would be faster somehow than Zhou Guanyu. I would go quicker in my last attempt late in Q1. You can see about almost half a second quicker. The question was obviously, is this going to be enough to get me through into Q2? Through the final corner, my teammate Tsunoda, who was faster in practice, continues that over into qualifying. He improves again. I cross the line. We improve, but not enough. It's only going to be good enough for 18th place here in Monza. Not a good qualifying effort at all, as Tsunoda ends up P9, about half a second quicker than myself, as Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, Magnussen, and Logan Sargent are all going to join myself out. We got some work to do. Let's head to the grid and see what it looks like here in Monza.
We're back in Italy once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. And what a great race is in store for us today, here at the oldest circuit on the calendar, which hosted its first race all the way back in 1922. We're 12 miles northeast of Milan for today's Grand Prix at a Monza circuit where we can expect top speeds of around 215 miles per hour. 11 corners on this 3.6 mile track, with 7 of those coming in the form of chicanes. And with a good slipstream and DRS open, there should be plenty of opportunity for some passing here today. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton, Sainz, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Gasly, Albon, Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Bottas, Joe, Golden Boy, Magnussen, and Logan Sargent. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Anthony Davidson is alongside me, as usual, for today's race. Now, can I get your take on Max Verstappen? That was a great win in the last race, but can they keep that momentum going into this weekend?
There are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out would have boosted their confidence coming into this one.
Not very happy, of course, with the position we're starting in here now. We're going to be starting on the softs, going to mediums. Our teammate Tsunoda looks like he's going to be doing mediums to hards, as we're going to see quite a bit of soft to medium strategies, though, as we get ready to roll off the grid.
The formation lap gets underway and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out. As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can, and they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, failing that, within the points.
Okay, not a great day yesterday, but I think we have good race pace. Stick with it today.
Yes, sir. I'll try to make this a good home race for the team as well. Ready to roll. Although Monza is a pretty simple track, it's not my favorite track to drive in Formula 1 games, but I'm ready to roll, and it could probably be a bit of a crazy race with the DRS and whatnot. It's going to be very hard for drivers to get away from each other. We are ready to go racing. 27 laps here in Monza for the Italian Grand Prix that's now underway. It's a Red Bull front row lockout here. So it's a great launch for myself here. Now we start P18 up to 16th, now 15th, 14th, a huge start. Going 3 wide here now, and we have a chance to maybe even overtake our team at a Tsunoda. We're going to enter the top 10. We've gained, 10 positions nearly entering turn 1. It was very close. We gained 9, but then we lose a couple right down the exit of turn 1, but we get through there clean. Up front, it's a battle between Verstappen and Perez. Now Perez trying to keep himself in the championship hunt as Verstappen's been pulling away in the recent races, and it looks like we could see the same today. He clears Perez into the chicane. You see Alonso settling in just behind the Ferraris now of Leclerc and Sainz now as well. But overall, a great start. Honestly, start of the season from myself to go from 18th on the grid up the inside. No one really made an attempt to cover me off, as I'm going to go a little bit wide right here on the exit of the right-hander. That's going to open the door for Tsunoda to get a nice run on me here for P11, and I'm not going to fight him too hard. He's been faster than me all weekend long, so I decided, you know what, I'll let you go right here, but if I get an opportunity, I'm going to take it back and go for that overtake once again. But let's see what Yuki is capable of doing, and he wouldn't waste much time, as you can see now up the inside of Alex Albon here as they exit the final turn. But Albon, with that speed in the Williams, is going to fight back side by side as he join the party. I don't really want to take my teammate 3 wide in this moment. Maybe I could have if it was later in the race, absolutely, but right now it's more of let's just settle in here, let's not fight too hard there, as we actually ghost in Gasly. I still don't understand why ghosting happens even when it's turned off. I don't understand that. Nonetheless, we hang on to P12 here, and then we now bring the fight to Alex Albon here, down the elevation, through under the bridge now as we head down towards the chicane, and we'll move up into the 11th position and try to run my teammate of Tsunoda back down, and it wouldn't take long. Start at lap 3, even without the DRS, we close right in on him. A lot of slipstream, of course, helping us now as he leaves us a little bit of room there to work with in turn 1, not a whole lot, but he does leave us enough to operate. We have, of course, set the upper edge on Tsunoda all season long as a rookie, which is really putting up a good reputation and a good name for myself going into season 2 of this driver career mode here now as we continue on. But hold on, the battle's not over with Tsunoda trying to make a statement that in this final half of the season, he's not backing down without a fight. He goes back past me with the DRS as we would have to settle in behind him once again as we approach now lap 4 of this Grand Prix. And look at this battle we're coming up on. Alonso, Ocon, Norris, everybody. Carlos Sainz, Tsunoda, myself, they're all over the circuit. Tsunoda nearly wrecks himself as I'm going to join the party into turn 1, but there it goes. The engine fails, and we knew this was coming at some point this season. We've been waiting for this one, and for the first time this season as a rookie in Formula 1, we have a mechanical failure, and that is going to end our day very early. Lap 4 is all it took for us to be out of this Grand Prix in Monza. Now that's unfortunate. I was very curious to see where that battle was about to go, but yeah, unfortunate. Max Verstappen would end up hanging on at the end of the day for the win over Perez and Lewis Hamilton. Our teammate Tsunoda managed P11. Joining me out of the race was Oscar Piastri. That's his second retirement in a row, third of his rookie season. We get our second of our rookie season, being the first one when we crashed in Monaco. We take on from Monza, and it's not over. Episode's going to continue right here. We touch down in Singapore now, ready to roll. Look at this beautiful city. I love Singapore. You guys know, if you've been around on my old channel, the NASCAR channel where we're doing Formula 1, or now on this new channel, Singapore is my favorite circuit on the planet. I love this track so much, and we also got some news pre-race from Pierre that next year's regulations will be seeing some changes to potentially multiple departments, so that's going to make things interesting. I'm not going to waste your guys' time since we've already done the beginning part of Monza, so we're jumping straight through to qualifying here in Singapore under the lights. Now here's two key things to mention for this section of the episode now. It's going to rain in qualifying. It's also going to rain heavily at the start of the Grand Prix for about the first potentially 10 to 15 laps of the Grand Prix. It is going to be raining, and then it's going to dry up from the looks of it here. So here we are in qualifying, getting a lap in as soon as possible because I was told by Mark over the radio that the rain was basically coming any moment. It's just a matter of time. We'll have to wait and see what happens here now as we continue on. And at the end of my lap, sure enough, the rain was here. So we get in a lap and the rain would start falling quite quickly. Obviously the track would get pretty damp, and that would slow everybody down here. I would have enough time to get in one more lap though and go just a tiny bit faster, not even a tenth faster. Fortunately, time slows down enough to where I don't get eliminated. We are P13, but unfortunately our teammate Sonoda could not put in a competitive enough of a lap there in P19. He went out just simply too late. So we make it into Q2, and now at this point it was intermediate conditions. As you can see, the DRS just now getting disabled as I enter turn 1 right there, but just looking for the best lap I can get here now in Singapore. As you can see, Alonso briefly comes through to go purple there, going with the fastest lap. What a beautiful view. Even when it's raining here, it's just such a beautiful view of Singapore. I love driving here so much. This is, if I could only go to one Formula 1 race in my life, it wouldn't even be my home race in the Canadian Grand Prix. It would be right here in Singapore. We cross the stripe, we go P4, and things got pretty lucky for me. The rain would start falling heavier, and that would allow me, for the first time in my Formula 1 career, to move on into Q3. We have advanced to Q3. Norris, Ocon, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, and Bottas all out. Now, unfortunately, although we have made Q3 for the first time, and it just so happens to be my favorite venue, we are taking a 10-place grid penalty due to the part that failed on the car. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been the energy store, if I remember correctly, that failed on the car, and we only have 2 of those in the season instead of like a 3 or a 4. So that means that we will be taking a 10-place grid penalty here tonight in Singapore. So no matter where we qualify, 10 places down from that here now, as we are trying to get in as quick as of a lap as we can here, of course, in this third qualifying session. Not used to being here in my rookie season, or first time, like I said, now when we have really excelled in the rain, have been able to showcase our talents in the rain this season here in Formula 1. Our best efforts have come in the rain with 2 seventh place finishes in rain conditions. We cross the stripe, we go P8. Wasn't a great lap, and that's where we would end up, is P8 here in Singapore. Perez, Russell, Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, your top 5. Hamilton down the order in P7. He's got some work to do, but we are going to drop 10 places to P18 for the race.
Marina Bay hosted a Grand Prix that briefly ran in the 60s and 70s, but the Garden City re-entered the calendar for good in 2008. We missed it for a couple of years, but it was great to come back to the Singapore Grand Prix. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Gasly, Oscar Piastri, Norris, Ocon, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Leclerc, Bottas, Sargent, Joe, Golden Boy, Sonoda, Albon, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And with me today, of course, is Natalie Pinkham. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
It's not an ideal situation by any means. When you get into a bad run like that, there's always the risk of frustration creeping in, which can cause more mistakes and locks you into this vicious cycle. Hopefully today they can get through turn 1 cleanly and stay calm for the rest of the race.
It'd be wet. It's raining quite a bit here. The wet tires are going to be on. I think this might be the first time I've been on the wets this season. I can't remember. Did we have the wets on in Australia? I don't remember. Nonetheless, it's pretty straightforward strategy here. Starting on the wets, wait till it gets dry.
Right then, the formation lap has started. And I must say, the weather conditions aren't the best today for visibility and for grip. As each driver performs this lap, they'll be wanting to settle in and concentrate, as this race, in these conditions, will require a lot of focus. as all the cars reform the grids, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
All right, mate. Unfortunate what happened in Monza, but let's have a good rebound tonight.
Are you nice and dry over there, Mark?
Dry as a desert in here, mate.
Yeah, happy to hear. Have fun. All right, then. It's ready to go racing here in Singapore. The conditions are terrible. The fans are sticking it out here. They're ready to see some Formula One action here. We don't have the new 2023 layout of Singapore, which obviously is basically that little straight shoot towards the last corner in Singapore instead of the little chicane that kind of goes around like a building and whatnot. Nonetheless, here we go. Ready to go racing. 31 laps. It just so happens to be raining in the longest Grand Prix of the season. It's going to be lights out, and Sergio Perez, who needs to make a statement to bring himself back into the championship battle, leads the field down towards turn one. Of these treacherous conditions, Russell is going to lunge one up the inside there as they are going side by side through the first couple of corners. Verstappen in the background there, of course, going at it with the Ferrari as well. Look at that, Fernando Alonso just behind. How about Lance Stroll once again having a terrible qualifying effort, and that's only benefiting myself here and getting that ride at Aston Martin next season. But now, of course, there is a potential curveball. There's two curveballs that could be thrown Aston Martin's way. Fernando Alonso could retire at the season's end, and they would be actually potentially forced to keep Lance Stroll. The second option, Fernando Alonso could do Fernando Alonso, just decide he's going to leave, and well, that would force him into keeping Lance Stroll. As of right now, the fight is for Stroll's seat, but like I said, it is subject to change based off of what Fernando Alonso determines he is going to do with his future. You can see myself here settling in now in these wet conditions. We started P17, another driver with a grid penalty. We were able to gain 3 positions in these opening corners, so up at a P14 behind Charles Leclerc, of course, starting down the order there in the Ferrari. He's got some work to do, and it's going to be basically impossible for overtakes to take place here early on in this Grand Prix until it really starts to dry up. I myself have a massive amount of confidence around this circuit here, just with it being, you know, my favorite and how much I love it. I was feeling very confident in this car's abilities, and the pace is kind of there this weekend and whatnot, so I was pretty happy with where we were, and I was ready to kind of get into a rhythm. Look at this though, by lap 5, the rain had let up massively. It was already closing in on time for intermediates, so it's not going to be wets to dries immediately. It's just going to be wets to intermediates, and then we're going to probably run another 5 or so laps on those, and then we'll switch to the dries. Look at this exit out of the hairpin right on the back of Charles Leclerc. An opportunity to go for the overtake potentially here up the inside here. The driver, of course, from Monaco, not having a great night here in Singapore. We're going to go up the inside and take the position away, and there we go through now into behind the number 27. Is Hulkenberg number 27? I'm pretty sure he is right there, but up into P13 nonetheless. It wouldn't last long though. Same lap, going for a huge slide. A big tank slapper. We save it. We hang on to 14th, and then we would just stick with Leclerc and wait for the right opportunity. Next lap, lap 6 here. Here I am again up the inside, of course, at the end of the long DRS straight here, as this is the biggest passing opportunity when it is dry, as we go back through and take P13. Trying to give Leclerc as much room as I could there, but it wasn't long until pit stops would kick off. The end of the lap, Sergio Perez leading the Grand Prix. He's going to come in for a set of inters. Russell, Sainz, Verstappen, Alonso, Norris, Gasly, they've all stayed on track. Hamilton's coming in for inters, and several others as well are going to be coming in, including the driver right in front of me of Nico Hulkenberg, and there goes Esteban Ocon now in the Alpine as well, losing out today to his teammate so far of Pierre Gasly. So I would come in a lap later, but you can see up ahead Magnussen, as well as Piastri, Russell, and as well as it's going to be just those guys, I think, staying out in front of us right now. So they're going to really stretch out this run. We come in for these inters, Leclerc following me into the pit lane as well, but he is going to stay behind me. Now everybody in front of us that we just mentioned, they would end up pitting for inters as well, but George Russell would go a few extra laps for whatever reason. He would decide he was going to go a few extra laps on those wets before actually coming in for intermediate tires, so that was going to cost him and bring him back down the order a little bit here to about 5th or 6th place. You can see him exiting the pit lane on the track map now, right with Fernando Alonso. So Perez retakes the lead over Sainz and Hamilton. I am continuing to run a pretty decent race here, P12 or P11 on lap 12, closing in on Pierre Gasly as well as Hulkenberg. And Haas, of course, they've been moving up the R&D as the season has progressed, and now they've become a regular threat for points this season, especially with Hulkenberg. DRS enabled when it's raining. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before, and suddenly it was like, okay, lap 14, it's looking like we might actually have to come in for dries already. Even though the track's certainly wet, it's still raining. Perez pits for hards, and he's not going to be the only one. Sainz is in, and everybody's coming in. They're double stacking. Red Bull Verstappen's coming in, Alonso as well, I myself, and several others, basically the whole field for the most part, as I'm in for the hards. And I was confused because it was raining still, but I was just kind of doing what everybody else was doing in this kind of scenario here. We actually beat Hulkenberg out of the pits, so we move up an extra position right here. Russell again stays out later than everybody, so it's going to be interesting to see how those inters hang on for him here. And as well, Pierre Gasly, I think, stayed out, so yes, he did. You're going to see us passing him now. Russell again dropped down a little bit, but actually is about the same spot he was previously. So we continue now into 9th place because of the strategy just kind of working in our favor a little bit here now as we are closing in already. The closing laps of the closing 10 laps of this Grand Prix. We're halfway through, well halfway through at this point now, and it's been a heck of a Grand Prix for us. It's been a calm one, but a really fun one with the weather and the strategy kind of coming in here. So that's been fun. As you can see, look at my left front tire, and I noticed when you scrape the wall, and I scrape the wall quite a bit here in Singapore with my left front. I don't fortunately do wing damage, but you can see it wears the tire quite hard now. Is this time, for the first time today in 2 races though, to go through the grid in Singapore.
What a fantastic drive from Perez tonight, Martin. He needs to make a statement, and he sure is tonight.
He and the team have conquered all curveballs with weather and strategy as well. It's looking good for a second consecutive Singapore win for him. Hamilton having a solid podium run here tonight, and Alonso not far off.
Two-time defending champion Max Verstappen hasn't had the greatest night down in P5. Currently, his worst running position since Miami.
Remember that those early races leading into Miami where we all were questioning what was wrong with Max. Now here we are again with him running away with the title. What you got for us, Ted?
I've got bad news for Ferrari and Leclerc fans. Charles just came over the radio saying the engine sounds like it is giving up. But keep an eye on his car over the next few laps, guys.
Thanks, Ted. And we'll pay attention to that Ferrari. Another bad run for Stroll again tonight as well. He hasn't gone anywhere.
And I've heard that if he continues like this, it's a done deal that there will still be a Canadian at Aston Martin next year, just not the current one.
Well, there you have, through the grid now as we continue on. You see Tsunoda, Albon at the bottom of the grid now, as you can see myself closing in on the back of the Alpine, the Frenchman of Esteban Ocon here. Now, it looks like a realistic chance for P8 is on now, as we're going to size him up for a potential move right here on the exit of the corner for the DRS now wide open. Lap 24 of 31, less than 10 laps to go, and a big run on the back of Ocon here. He's going to defend, but I'm going to go a little bit more aggressive up the inside, side by side, wheel to wheel with the Alpine, and here we are putting a great run together in the Singapore Grand Prix. Now, my favorite track, like I've said so many times already, and it's awesome to be putting up this effort. This is going to be definitely, if we finish here in P8, this will be our best effort in dry conditions this season. We've talked about 2 P7s in the rain this season so far. As we continue to try and drive away, we would pull away from Ocon, who seems to be struggling in these closing laps. However, Lando Norris up in P7, I just couldn't close in on him. The gap was 6 seconds, and unfortunately, the gap was increasing. I had no pace. Formula flag ahead of us here. It looks like no, it's maybe not ahead of us, and it's the Ferrari of Leclerc. And you heard Ted Kravitz talk about it through the grid, that there was a potential issue there, and sure enough, Leclerc is going to be out of the Grand Prix. That will be the end of the night for him here in Singapore. No virtual safety car, no full-blown safety car. We continue on in these closing laps here at this point. 2.1 seconds a gap now to Ocon. The gap still increasing between myself and the car ahead of Lando Norris, just bringing it home at this point now for P8 here in Singapore. And Perez, of course, just cruising to victory as we start the final lap of the Singapore Grand Prix. What an episode here as we head down through turn 1 and 2 for the final time, as I've made a big error. We've got a 3-second time penalty. That was my 3rd warning, obviously, of the Grand Prix. So now it's a race against the clock here. Perez, though, coming through to win in Singapore 2 seasons in a row there. Sainz, Hamilton will be your podium. That's podium 199 for Lewis Hamilton. Just one more to 200 as we continue to come through to the end. And unfortunately, I actually lost time, 2.7 seconds. I couldn't get the 3 seconds on Ocon, so we're going to end up P9 with the penalty, hanging off over Hulkenberg by 0.3 of a second. Still, you know, even when losing one position there because of my own error, a heck of a day here in Singapore, a heck of a night, I should say. Could not ask for much more, and I think rightfully so, we get driver of the day. Let's head to the podium for the celebrations.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I feel consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
It would appear that the rain has suddenly returned here in Singapore. An absolute downpour as soon as we finish the race, I guess. There's Sergio Perez, the 2022 Singapore winner, back on top here. Now, Sergio Perez, that is actually going to be career win number 8 for him. His 34th podium here in Formula 1 as well. And then, of course, Max Verstappen came up short of him today, so that is going to allow the title fight to close in a little bit between Perez and Verstappen. But we'll have to wait and see if, of course, Perez can really close it a whole lot to make it an actual championship fight. For Sainz, a bit of a milestone for him as well. This is his 20th career podium, so the Spanish driver on podium for his 20th time in his Formula 1 career. As you can see the rest of the finishing order, Stroll actually got up to 15th at the end of that thing, so he did gain a couple positions late there in the Grand Prix. One of them, of course, was the retiring Charles Leclerc. We'll check out the point standings before we wrap things up here now. We, of course, actually pull a little bit further away from Lance Stroll and our teammate of Yuki Tsunoda. It's probably not going to happen to get Ocon. I think we're battling for 10th with Stroll, Magnussen, as well as maybe Pierre Gasly. Maybe Piastri, we'll have to wait and see. 7th in the Constructors, and I think it's a battle with Haas, basically, and maybe Alfa Romeo. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us. Where are we racing in the next episode? I don't even know, to be honest with you guys. But either way, that's going to wrap it up for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.